If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like and subscribe buttons. If you're listening to our podcast, go leave us a 5-star review. All of our links can be found in the video description or show notes below. Hey, welcome back to the Average Joe Finances podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cavagioni, and today's awesome guest is Tracey Lundell. And we were talking a little bit before I hit record. I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today. Tracey seems like a really fun and awesome person. And she's calling in from another country. She's calling in from Canada. So it's pretty cool. Excited to talk to you. As a matter of fact, I have some Canadian listeners that are going to love this episode. Tracey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you. I'd like to kick this off the same way I start every podcast episode, and we'd like to know more about you. So can you share a little bit about yourself and tell us your story? Who is Tracey Lundell?
Oh, goodness. Who is Tracey Lundell? I guess that's a story that just continues on because that changes over time. Fell into this financial industry because that's what I do day to day by accident. Went to university to become a diplomat. I wanted to see the world, travel, go work in embassies and travel all over the world. And the year I graduated, they put a 5-year freeze on the entrance exam to the Canadian Foreign Service. So that wasn't happening anytime soon. And I was already working at a bank. So I started my full-time career at the bank because they offered a spot in their management program, their trainee program. So there I was, and here I still am in the financial industry, which is awesome. It's actually I've had I feel like a whole bunch of careers, but within the same financial umbrella. So I've been lucky enough to work in retail banking, up mostly on the leadership side, managing teams, managing branches, and then insurance and securities and commercial banking, and most recently wealth, but wealth management. And I would say that the awesome thing about that is all of that experience that I had leading into this role gives me a ton of breadth to be able to help people beyond what I just do day to day. So it's a nice high level view. So I would say, in a nutshell, that's my career. A little less travel than I guess I was originally going to have, but I still like to travel. Now it's just all for fun.
Awesome. Actually, we were just talking about a trip that you took to Hawaii, so it's pretty neat. So you still get the opportunity to travel. It's not for work at this point. Very
Uh,
interesting background though, Tracy, because wanting to be a diplomat, and obviously you would travel a lot with that. Unfortunately, that didn't work out because of that 5-year test wait, but it kept you doing what you were doing at the time, which was being in the banking industry. And you said that you've worked your way up and you've done all these different things now in the financial industry itself. What is your current position? What is it that you're currently doing?
I'm a wealth advisor now, which means that like a broker, but with a lot more planning involved. So yes, we look after investments, so we'll manage portfolios for our clients. But more importantly than that, we do a lot of big picture planning. Almost all the designations, so many designations over this like 30 plus year career, which is great because we can give some guidance around like tax strategies and wealth, like growing your net worth. And if you own a business, how to incorporate that into your own personal plans and estate planning and philanthropic planning. So I would say it's quite holistic, but at the end of the day, like we get paid to look after our clients' portfolios and then they get all of that extra planning along with it.
Awesome. So, as a wealth advisor, I think, yes, some of the rules are different in Canada, but I think some of the same basic principles apply
They
both
do.
there or in the US. And I know some of the things we were talking about before we hit record. I was just explaining to you how I was in the Navy and then I retired and now I work for the Navy as a civilian. Currently, the date is October 4th, so I'm not sure when this episode's going to come out. We're currently in a government shutdown, right? And we were talking about, yeah, it stinks that not getting paid right now. But at the same time, thankfully, because of things that I've done in my life and different investments that I've made, I still have some income coming in that's covering down for me. I think that's one of the things that's super important. So actually, I wanted to ask you about that, Tracy. What are your thoughts on alternative income streams and different things like that as a wealth advisor?
They're actually a huge element of the planning that we do is creating that passive income for yourself. It could be active, it could be a little side hustle, hopefully based on something that you love to do. But I think like money in and of itself doesn't bring people happiness. Like it's an important tool, It allows us to be able to do the things we want to do and obviously give us the security of a roof over our head and food on the table. But I think beyond that, it's just opportunity. Like when something comes by and you want to say yes to it, if you've got the financial means, not just through whatever your employment is, but through savings plans that you've put in place, that can create a passive income, whether it's real estate, whether it's investments, whether it's a company that you've got going on the side. I think that you've got to diversify not just your investments, but also the sources of your income, especially in this day and age. I think the times of working for one organization in both Canada and the US, I think that's few and far between. Most people have multiple jobs with multiple employers or self-employed structures now. And it's just not the same as when you start when you're 20 and you retire when you're 60 or 65 with a full pension. And it's just not like that anymore. So
I guess what our parents and grandparents were used to, where they can graduate from high school, get a job, and go buy a house and start your
yep.
life. That is just not reality anymore. And
No, it is.
I think sometimes the way that we're raised as children and see that, we come into adulthood with this expectation that's how it's going to be for us, and then you get slapped in the face. I realized that when I joined the Navy when I was 18 years old, right? And actually I was 17 when I
Mhm.
joined, but when I shipped out, I was 18, and I started life, and I'm like, life's a lot more expensive than what I thought it was going to be based off of how I grew up. The decisions that you make, especially when you're younger, will impact you so like far greater when you're as you get older and closer to retirement age. If you made the right decisions when you were younger, you're going to set yourself up. But if you didn't, and if you thought that you could do the same thing your parents did, life's going to hit you pretty hard. And I
It
feel
is.
like
And
that's
people
that's one
work a
of those
little
things.
longer.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So Tracy, I wanted to ask you about that now because there's such a big shift in the amount of income people need to bring in to try to, one, keep up with just everyday expenses, but also two, keep up with inflation that keeps going up every year, right? What are some of the things that you're seeing some of your more successful clients do to keep up with the growing costs and just the growing expenses of life? Because I think that's the question we really need to be asking ourselves right now, because that's the environment, that's what reality is today. So how do we keep up with that?
And I think like that is the magic question. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And the best one is to go back in time, right? Like
absolutely.
when the people ask that when trying to have a forest, when's the best time to plant a tree? And it was 20 years ago.
Yep,
But when's the next best time? It's now.
it's right.
I think we don't want to lose hope just because it is
Mm,
harder now if we haven't set that nice foundation for ourselves. But that's the best option is if we'd started ages ago. But if we haven't, then I think it's rather than doing that whole stick in your head in the sand and hoping that it all just works out, that's getting harder and harder to do. Like luck and winds are not on our side. They're headwinds, not tailwinds. And I think that
like that. Yeah.
that needs some planning. That just needs some good planning. And I don't think it has to be hard. I think the biggest thing is taking that first step. And generally speaking, for folks that aren't in the industry already, it's some sort of educational piece. So whether that's just taking even a free online course about financial literacy and just understanding the ins and outs, understanding that when things are happening in the like why inflation is happening and just when things are happening in the economy or when the central banks raise or lower rates, how that's going to impact you personally, not just the country, but you as an individual. And it doesn't matter where you live in the world. I think that's an important place to start. But I think the most important thing is just to start, do something. And then the next thing as an individual practice, I would say. I don't agree. I don't like the term budget. Nobody does. So I don't use it. But I say
I like to say spend plan.
that's what I do, a spending plan
Yeah.
and a savings plan, because a lot of us like to spend money. So
Absolutely.
exactly, who really doesn't? So that's the idea is just get a look at your spending plan, see, and that is usually historical, like looking back at your bank accounts, looking back at your credit card statements. And it doesn't need to be super hard. but figure out which are those expenses that kind of come on a regular basis. Which ones maybe you didn't even know you were still paying for that gym membership in the city you don't live in anymore, or a streaming platform that you never watch anymore. There's some easy ways to start to build a little more capacity and then move some of that spending money into your savings plan.
Yeah, 100% agree. And
Mm.
there was something that you said, Tracy, that sticks out immediately. And I wrote this down as you were going, but throughout that whole answer that you gave to that question, the biggest piece, I would say the most important thing that you said was get started. You have to get started. You can't sit here and all the things you want to do and learn about all these different things and then not actually take action to do it, right? And
Yes.
another thing that you said that I thought was really awesome is that there are a lot of free resources and free courses out there. If you have LinkedIn Premium, they have classes you could take, financial classes you could take on there.
Yep.
I've taken a couple. I think Allison.com has a whole bunch of like actual free classes. I've taken a couple there too. And I have a pretty
Coursera.
good grasp on,
Coursera has some good ones
yeah,
too, and they're
Coursera. Yeah,
free.
absolutely. I've got a pretty
Mhm.
good grasp on these things, but I still take classes just to make sure that I know what I'm doing and that I understand. And I feel like you could be doing this stuff for years, but things change over time, right? There's always something new that's coming out. There's always a new strategy, a new way of doing
Mhm.
things, right? The way that we manage our wealth today is not the same way that people manage wealth 20, 40, 60 years ago, right?
Nope.
So it is important. And I think one of the things I was scoping out your website, right? And one of the things that you have on there, I think it said something about complexity simplified, right? Because when you look at finances in general and you look at investing in the stock market or in real estate or whatever it might be, and you might look at that and get intimidated. You might say, this is really complex and this is really scary. And I think that's why it's important. You learn these things, but you also you get somebody that can translate it for you too, that can help you out. And that's why I'm a firm believer in coaches, mentors, advisors. I think that can be a huge resource for people that just don't have the time, one, to do everything on their own, right?
Mhm.
Especially if you're working a bunch of jobs to get the income to come in to just keep up with life in general. Speaking of
For sure.
that, Tracy, for those that are like living paycheck to paycheck and working two or three jobs to try to make things work, what would you say to somebody like that today that's trying to say, hey, I'm 30 years old, I'm working two jobs, I'm just making it by living paycheck to paycheck. What's the right next step for me at this point?
I think you hit the nail on the head with asking for help and support with,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
can come from a variety of different, not just like the self-support with the learning, but getting somebody to guide you through it because I don't even look after my partner looks after me and I look after her because I have a different lens to what's going on in her life. I'm in it. I may not see everything and I do this for a living, right? So even if you, and most people don't do it for a living. So I think building a team of people around you that can either be your resources or your guide, that's the biggest piece. That's probably the most, and it needs to be someone that you really can have those open conversations with because people think money is just numbers. It's actually not. It is, but it's not. It has such an emotional tag associated with it as well because it's the thing that's going to allow you to either do something or not do something or for your kids to be able to do something or not do so. So you can't separate the emotion from money. And I think that having someone to guide you through that process, that's really key. And they'll look at it a little bit differently and with a different kind of lens than you might. And they have knowledge that you might not have as well that can help you get past that paycheck to paycheck and see past that and figure out what that map needs to look like to get you out of that cycle because that's a frustrating, tiring, exhausting cycle to be in when it's paycheck to paycheck. And there's almost always something that can be done, but when you're living in it, you're too close to it. So, getting a little bit of help and a different perspective, that's the key to breaking out of that rut.
Yeah,
Hmm.
100%. I agree. Who you surround yourself with makes a big difference, right? Who you have in
Hmm.
your life. And if you're only surrounding yourself with other people that are living paycheck to paycheck and not able to figure it out, you're going to have a hard time getting out of that rut. You want to
Hmm.
surround yourself with people that got it, right? That know what they're doing. This is one of the things, one of the reasons why I like to talk about networking a lot too. Just for me in general, when I started investing in real estate, I'd go to all the local real estate meetups and everything, and I would just pick people's brain and I would just learn.
Mhm.
I was listening to podcasts, right? Like you had mentioned earlier, all these free resources. That was something we even talked about, right? There's podcasts like this where you can sit down and
They're
you can
awesome.
learn from people that have done it, right? And understand, and you can get better ideas. And this is why I love having the wide breadth of guests that I have on this show, because we can talk about so many different things that maybe real estate's not the right move for somebody. Maybe they
Mhm.
want to invest in the stock market or EFTs and they just want to go slow and steady, and real estate's not fast either. Don't think you're going to get into real estate and become rich overnight. That's not how
No,
it
that's a
works.
long-term plan.
All of it is. There's
All of it
nothing
is.
that's get rich quick unless it's like some crypto scam, and you got to be careful with those, right? You got to watch
Yep.
out for those pump and dump things. And there's a lot of that out there. And I think actually that's something I want to ask you about too, Tracy. Like, what are some of the
Hmm.
risks involved when somebody is new to investing or new to managing their wealth? What are some of the biggest risks out there for somebody? Because I, right off the top of my head, I'm thinking about somebody's doing that Google search and they're finding this, oh, work from home, or hey, invest in this new coin that came out. Feel like there's a lot of risk there. But I want to hear your take on that.
You're absolutely right. There is a lot of risk and there's a lot of noise. And I think
There's
that's
so much
probably
noise.
the hardest part is how do you
Yeah,
filter out all of the useless noise and get to the nugget of the thing that actually is what you need to do. And
right.
other things might work really well for other people, but that might not be the thing you need to step forward. So I think that's the biggest risk is the internet can make things look and social media almost always, let's be honest, make everything look better than it really is. And I
100%.
think that taking everything that you read or see or videos or TikToks or whatever with a bit of a grain of salt, just to say that like you're not in that person's scenario and they might have had an amazing outcome. Their timing is different than yours already because they've already done it. And especially in these kinds of economic markets globally, I think that there's a lot going on. And the last 2 to 3, actually, let's be honest, ever since COVID, I would say nothing is working like it did before that. So, all the training that I had in my many moons ahead of doing what I do today, like, not all of it is irrelevant, but there's a lot. It just doesn't work that way anymore. So, you really have to be on top of it and make sure that you're getting relevant, timely information that actually applies to you. I think that's the biggest thing, too. And there
That's
aren't any
important.
get rich quick schemes. There just
Oh,
aren't.
there's plenty of schemes.
Oh, there's lots of schemes.
There's
You're
none that
right.
actually work.
Fair. Completely fair. There's lots of schemes, but 9 times out of 10 or 99 out of 100, let's make it even a higher percentage than that. They don't work. So it's
Yeah.
about having a really good and a plan that's for you. I think that's the biggest thing. Just because a plan worked really well for someone else, your scenario is not the same. So I think it's really important to get one that relates to what you want out of your life, where you're at now. The magic is in the mapping to figure out how do I get from here to there and what kind of timeline can I expect? And I think that it doesn't sound as fun, maybe, but a lot of people take so much relief once they've got a plan. It's hard to save if you don't know what you're saving for. Purpose is really important.
Yeah, that's huge. Purpose, right? That's the key
Mhm.
word there. But I want to bounce back to something that you said there, and I think it's huge. You said that someone's timing would could be different than yours, right? And it
Mhm.
immediately made me think about the different stages of life that people are in. And I know, like for me, I know there's many people that are older than me that I am much better well off than them. And I know there's many people that are younger than me that are crushing it way more than me. And you can't look at either one of those people and say, or the ones that are ahead of you and say, oh, I wish I was there. I wish I was that. No, they made their choices at a different time and a different stage in life than
Yeah.
what you did. The only thing you could do now is focus on the now and what can you do now to get better moving towards the future. And you could be in your 60s and get started. Honestly, it's not too late. So I feel like that's something that's huge. Now, there's something else that you said, and
Mhm.
I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into this, but you were talking about mapping it out, right? So
Right.
when you're working with your clients, like how would you navigate mapping out what that financial future is going to look like for them as you help them build their spend plans? We won't
Yeah.
use the B word here, but as you build out the spend plan, so what are some of the strategies and things that you focus on with your clients?
So I would the very first thing we do is we have a discussion. I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but about their values to make sure that, and maybe if we can figure out what their 4 to 5 core values are, I want to
Mm,
make sure that the decisions they're making in life about everything, about jobs they take, about investments they make, about what they spend their money on, does it
yeah.
align? And then what we end up investing for them as well needs to align with that. And then it's a little bit of number crunching. It's aggregating a bunch of information, a little bit of number crunching. Where are you at now? And then we do a
That's the scary part.
discussion vision board.
Yeah. That's the scary part though, when you're finding out where you're at now. I think a lot of people come to a realization like, I spent how much?
How did
That's
that
what
happen?
I've seen. Yeah.
Exactly. They do. I
Yeah.
think that is a big shocker. Money can fly out of our accounts pretty quickly.
Way too easily as well. So,
Yes. And
okay,
then
well,
if
you build out this
mindless.
vision board for them, right? And you build it out. So
Yeah.
what's next after that?
So after that, and we've got maybe some plans that are over the next couple of years, 5 years, and then we get longer term. Then we are the ones who are like, okay, for that kind of lifestyle, this is the nest egg that you need to have built up, or whether it's a nest egg or whether it's just ongoing income, passive income that you could have set up. And then that's number crunching. We just work the numbers backwards to figure out what you need to do today in order to reach those goals there. And not everybody can do it with what they're earning right now. So sometimes there's a bit of a reality check to say, hey, you know what? I know you want to retire at 62, but realistically, you might have to work till you're 65. Or I know you don't want to sell your big house and downsize, but the earlier you do it, maybe that presents a different opportunity for you to be able to, it just opens the doors for financial freedom. So it's just different options. So there is not one path for anybody. So I think that's most people feel a sense of comfort knowing
Hmm.
that there's choices. Like I think choices are what people want. People want the opportunity. They don't want to feel stuck in
Yeah, it's not
anything.
like this
So
linear path. It,
it
it
isn't.
forks off multiple ways that it's like one of those choose your own adventures, right? And if you
I
go
love
this can
books.
happen. If you go this way, that can happen. If you go,
Yeah.
and it's all about the different decisions that you make. And I think that's so important and I think that kind of removes some of the uncertainty that's there, right?
Mhm.
Because you do have a choice, you do have options. And that if you do go down a certain path and it's not working out, you can always say, okay, we're going to go down a different path
Pivot.
now. There's different, you pivot, you navigate, right? I think that's important. And I feel like a lot of people feel like once they lock into a specific thing, they have to stick to this or they're never going to make it to their retirement date. But things change, life changes, the economy changes, things that you
Health
could have been
changes.
investing in. Yeah, your health changes, right? So life happens. Life
Mhm.
happens. You could get sick and not and be out of work. Like you never know. And that's the thing. That's one of the beautiful parts about it is that you do get to make these choices, and those choices will impact you in the future. So I think that's the biggest thing, probably the biggest takeaway.
It is a big takeaway. And I think that's the other piece too, is that knowing that you're not locked in and like that flexibility that you build into whatever your plans are needs to be there. That's probably the biggest risk I see is when people do lock themselves up for 5 years. Oh, I just put that into a 5 year term deposit. It's just like, what? What if something happens over the next 5 years and you need to be able to do something or an opportunity presents or so I think building flexibility into a plan is just as important as all the other risk mitigation and potential growth and income. And I think that being flexible is key because you're right, life happens, health, life, work opportunities, fun things too that you might want to say yes to. Maybe you want to take 6 months off of work and go travel Europe. I don't know. It could be anything, but I think just giving yourself those open doors, I think, is really important.
Yeah. Actually, funny story. I actually did that back in June. I took pretty much like the whole month of June off and went to Greece and France and
Oh,
hanging out
nice.
in Athens and Paris, and it was pretty fun. Promised my daughter for her 16th birthday we would take her to Paris, and we kept true on that promise. So that was one
That's
of those things
awesome.
that was pretty nice to be able to do. And we were able to do it because of choices that I made many years ago, right? So I think that's just proof of concept, right? And
Yep.
it's proof of that you can make decisions that will impact your future dearly, good or bad, right? Tracy, as you're talking about, as you map it out and you make these decisions, you go down these different paths depending on your stage in life and what you're trying to do. But there's also the other piece of it too is, and we didn't mention this, is kids. If you have kids, that I don't think people realize how expensive kids are. I can tell you, I got two teenage daughters,
They're expensive, right? I
They
didn't
are.
realize that. I know how much I ate as a teenage boy. I didn't realize teenage girls could put down that much too. So food, oh my goodness, food is
Food
expensive.
and then
Groceries, yeah.
education. I have a 20 and a 22-year-old, and they're both in university right now.
Yep, yep. That's wild. Going over everything, I feel like the things that you've done in your life are pretty awesome. And what you're doing now, helping people, is really awesome. To go from wanting to be a diplomat, right, to where you're at now as a wealth advisor, you've worked very hard to get where you're at. So I don't want to downplay any of that. I also want to say that the fact that you help people and the fact that you are putting out good information is important and it's commendable because there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of people that sell bad advice and things like
Yes.
that. And you see it. I know you see it.
Oh, it
Um,
happens.
you got to be
It happens
careful.
all over.
Actually, I want to ask you about that too, because you
Mhm.
mentioned this earlier. There's a lot of people on social media, like these influencers, that will flash all this money and this and that or whatever. Like, what's your take on that? Because there's some that are actually doing really good things, but there are some that I'm just like, okay, that person rented the Ferrari. They don't own it. That
Yeah.
person, they're doing these photo bomb, like these photo setups, and it's not real. So
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on that?
I think you can actually extrapolate that further to just real life. I think when you look at some
Yeah,
people who live very flashy lifestyles, theirs just happen to be on camera. A lot of people are leveraged. Like there are so many that they don't necessarily own that Ferrari. They're leasing it
right.
or they have a giant mortgage on their giant place. And I think that everything's relative. And some people are absolutely successful and have made some fabulous decisions and they're doing well for themselves. And yay, good for them. But I would say that you cannot judge a book by its cover all the time. So,
100%.
and everyone puts their best foot forward on social media too, right? Or what you think is their best foot forward. So, like social media, probably even more than the internet, is one where you have to take it with a grain of salt and just you don't know. You don't know what the background is. You don't know
Yeah.
where the money came from. You don't know how much they probably owe to purchase all of these lovely toys and giant homes and
Oh yeah.
fabulous vacations.
I have real estate investors that come on and they'll talk about how much debt that they've leveraged to have the things that they
Mhm.
have. And there is strategies there to
Oh, for
leveraging debt. So
sure.
there can
Yeah.
be in a lot of debt, but in a really good place in life. I could tell you for me, I have a lot of debt
Yeah.
because of
But there's
different
good
real
debt and
estate
there's
investments
bad
that I
debt.
have and loans that I have out. So it's those things, it's balancing that debt to income ratio and that debt
Yeah.
to cash flow. And I think that's important.
Borrowing is an important tool.
It
So
is.
I'm not
And
saying people
borrowing
shouldn't.
power is important as well.
There, you can use debt as a very powerful tool to build your wealth. You can
100%.
also just use it to support your lifestyle, which is less that's not sustainable. But when you're
Yeah.
using debt as a tool to help you move the dial forward on your net worth, that's a different story. Hmm.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I love that. All
Hmm.
right, Tracy, I'd like to take this time now to transition to something that I call the final round. It's where I'm
Okay.
going to ask you, these are personal questions, right? But it's the same four
Okay.
questions I ask everybody that comes on the show. And it helps us dig into the mind of Tracey Lundell a little bit here, where you're at personally with some of these things in life that can be difficult for people. And for some people, these are difficult questions to answer, but it's really not that bad. So don't let me intimidate you.
Okay.
But if you're ready to go, we'll go ahead and get right into
Sure.
it. All right, Tracy, the first question of the final round is what's the biggest mistake that you've ever made when it comes to your finances or business life?
The biggest mistake I made was staying in a salaried, comfortable role at the financial institution I worked for too long. I know that seems silly, but I wish I'd made the leap into because me and my partners, it's our own financial planning or wealth management team. So I wish I'd made that leap earlier. I didn't have the courage to do it because I was too comfortable with my salary. But if I'd done it earlier, I know we'd be way further down the path now.
That's
The
fair.
freedom that comes along with that is awesome. And I wish I'd done that earlier.
That's fair.
So be
And,
brave.
a lot of people, that's a lot of times that is the answer to this question. I wish I would have done X sooner. And I feel like that goes back to some of the things we were talking about earlier. Hey, you got to take action. You just got to do it. And
Yeah.
hey, yeah, time has passed, but you got it done and you've got your team together now and you guys are crushing it.
Yep.
That's what
Exactly.
matters. Okay, so Tracy, this next question ties into that one. And it's what is something that you've learned that you wish you knew when you first started out?
I think I don't have to do it all myself. I think that's a big element, and maybe that's a leadership trait as well. But I think when you start your own business, take the jump earlier. Actually, not even just when you start your own business. I would say just in life in general. Take this step earlier to start operating the way you want it to be, as opposed to where it is today. Because I think it's easier to build towards something when you're already thinking along those lines, as opposed to maybe the smaller world that you're living in. But you have plans for this, really start focusing on that. Because if you can build with that in mind, you can really scale up. And this is at an individual level too, I think, with savings, with everything. But especially as a business owner, I wish there were things that I let go of earlier because there are things I just don't have the time to do now. So other people help with that. And that can happen in an individual life too, that you don't have to do everything yourself. Get like the advice I give, I need to take as well. Get the help,
Uh,
build a good team of people
yeah,
around you.
I love that answer because
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I've found with, not only my business, but my podcast as well. There were certain things like as I was doing everything on my own, were
Mm,
just taking up way too much time. It was becoming too tedious. And then I outsourced it. I outsourced my editing to a team. And
yeah.
that when I got that time back, I was kind of like, ooh, I can go do other things now instead
Mm,
of editing a podcast and doing all these other things. It is super important, I think, to know when to outsource certain things and what's the right thing to outsource, right? What is the
yeah.
right thing that you could pass off to someone else that you'll trust someone else to do? And I feel like, at least for me, that was the hardest thing was giving up that responsibility to someone else. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people struggle with that. Is that something
Oh,
that you had trouble with
yes.
too? Yeah,
I
I figured
absolutely struggle. I
that's
struggle
hard.
with it still, but
Yeah,
I'm getting better all the time.
that's definitely hard. Okay, awesome. Tracy, the next question of the final round is, do you have any tips or tricks that you would recommend to someone that is just getting started today?
We talked about some of them earlier. I would go find the free resources that are available. You don't have to outlay a bunch of cash or go to a weekend workshop that costs you a lot. There's a lot of great material out there. Be cautious of the source of the material. And podcasts are an amazing source of information. You can hear other people's stories as well. I think the biggest piece of advice is just get started doing something. Whatever it is that interests you or whatever format you digest information the best, just start to build your knowledge. Just take that first step. Like it doesn't even matter what that first step is, even if it's just getting really comfortable with logging into your online banking and watching the cash flow, watching the funds come in and out, and just really understanding what you're spending your money on. So it depends on what it is that you need, but that combination would be big. Just really understand your own flow of money coming in and out. And then whatever area you're not feeling confident, see if you can fill that gap or start to fill that gap a little bit with some free resources that are
Yeah.
plentiful free resources out there in the world.
Yeah, and that can be scary. That really can. Like that whole piece of just
It's
getting started.
overwhelming.
Even like you said, if it's logging into your bank and looking at where the money's going, looking at your
Yep.
cash flow, it can be scary. It can be
Oh, it
scary,
is
especially if you
often.
like to eat out a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely be scary. Awesome. All right. So, Tracy, the final question of the final round is different
Yeah.
than the other questions. This is more of a personal opinion. Do you have a favorite business, investing, or real estate related book or podcast, or
Mm.
both?
Oh gosh, I listen to a lot of podcasts. One of a book that comes to mind based on what we were just talking about is actually called The Big Leap. I'm trying to remember the name. I'm pretty sure the author's first name is Barbara, but I'm trying to remember her
The
last name.
Big Leap.
The Big Leap. And it's actually like it will have positive financial ramifications, but it's about how do you make sure that in life you're doing the thing that you're the best at, you're in your zone of genius. If you've ever heard anybody talk about your zone of genius, that's in that book. And it's all about really defining there's a lot of things people can do, but if it doesn't bring you joy, Why? Why are you doing it? Do more of the stuff that you do really well and brings you joy. Find ways to build capacity to do that 80% of the time. And that's where you outsource the other things. And this goes for your career, it goes for your financial. Like, I think it has a broad application, but really thinking about the things that you love to do and you're really good at. Because if you can spend more time doing that, your income will go up. You have to let go of the
Yeah.
stuff that's like a anchor that's pulling you down. And once you liberate yourself from some of those things, it's hard, especially if you're a type A personality like I am. I like to be in charge of most of the things that are going on, and you do have to relinquish a little bit of control. But it's also quite liberating because then you're like, oh gosh, like most of the time I get to do the stuff I'm really good at. And then compensation will come when you're doing the things that you're awesome at. You're gonna like that will work. It will work in your favor. So I would say it's that book. I can
Yeah.
get you the
I love it.
author's name afterwards.
Oh, I looked it up. So I think the person for Barbara was referring to Barbara Hendricks, but the book
Oh,
was actually written by, oh, I lost it now. I already closed it
uh-oh.
out. But the first name was Gay something. Hang on. The Big
Oh
Leap.
yeah, you know what? You're right. That's
Gay
correct.
Hendricks.
Gay
Oh,
Hendricks.
and it was Barbara McCullough who was she attended the publisher, or she
Oh,
was
maybe
with the
that's what it
publisher.
was. Okay.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna look that one up and add that one to my list. The description that you gave off the book sounds like it's awesome.
It's
So
really cool. And it has this
yeah.
one quadrant, if you're a visual person, that really describes like, here's your zone of genius. And then you really get to think about what you do and what you do really well and hone in and build a team around you that helps fill in the blanks for the other things if you can.
And that's the important part, is building
Hmm.
the team. And then, like you said, the hard part is relinquishing some of those responsibilities to
Yes.
them, because that is yeah, I'm also a type A personality, so it is very
Yeah.
difficult to do 100%.
First step is
Okay,
admitting it.
there you go. Here's your 12-step program to getting better at relinquishing your duties.
At
Um,
relinquishing all control.
yep. Hey, Tracy, that is it for the final round. So you can pat yourself on the back.
Okay.
You made it through. Like I said,
Okay.
it's not that bad.
No.
But I do have another question I want to ask you, and it's probably the most important question of this entire podcast, because people are listening and they're saying, "Hey, I really like some of the stuff Tracy's talking about. I like the way she delivers this information, and I want to learn more about her, or I'd like to learn more about what she does as a wealth advisor." Where can people find more information about you? Do you have a website you can share with us? Any social media profiles, anything like that?
Yes, indeed. Seaglasswealth.com. So sea glass, that's when we were kids, my partner and I, our moms took us to the beach to look up to find sea glass as a treasure hunt. So that's the name of our company. So seaglasswealth.com. There is an awesome page that we call it the Wisdom Hub, and it's got links to all sorts of things, including our blog. And if you're a social media person, we actually have a profile on Facebook as well, and we post a lot. We post a good 5 times a week. So there's great resources on there also. I'm on LinkedIn as well, but it'll be the same post that you'll find on Facebook. LinkedIn sometimes will have extra articles that I'll write on occasion. So I would say
Awesome.
those are the biggest three, and then you can get a lot of our resources. And we actually have a course that we're currently building that's for people as well that are looking to take a first step. It's not quite ready yet. It should be ready probably later this year, early next year. And it's all about taking that first step. So stay tuned for that too.
Awesome. I love that. And the first
Mhm.
step is the most important step, right?
It is.
It's
It's the
it's not
hardest one to take.
it is definitely the hardest one to take. Okay, awesome. I'm going to make sure that we have those links in the show notes for the listeners. It'll make it easy for them to copy and paste or click away. But listeners, you know the drill. If you're driving right now, please wait till you're in a safe place and don't try to open any links while you're driving. Appreciate that. To close things out, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners today?
Nothing too crazy other than don't be afraid to take that first step.
I love it.
Things can only you will feel better once you do.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you so much. And listeners, this is probably a theme that you've heard with many guests that have been on the show, is it's taking that step. It's taking action. This has
Hmm.
been one of the biggest things, is if you have been learning about whatever it is that you were getting into, whether it was real estate, business, investing, whatever it is, and you're just learning and learning, and you're networking and you're meeting people, but you're not actually doing anything to take action on it. This is your call to action right now.
Hmm.
To take the step, take that first step, that scary first step, move forward and start doing something, right? Whatever it is that you're going to get into, whether it's real estate, business, investing, or even opening up your bank account and looking at reality, right? And
Yes.
figuring that part out. Whatever that scary first step is for you, this is the time to go ahead and take that step. Tracy, thank you so much for that, because many podcast episodes I have, this is one of the biggest things is taking action. So that first step really is the scary step. So I want to thank you for pointing that out. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today to join me and our podcast listeners, share such an amazing story and an unlikely one, right? Somebody who wanted to be a diplomat turned into a financial advisor or wealth advisor. I think it's absolutely awesome. So thank you so much. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Absolutely.
It was a true pleasure.
And I also want to thank every single one of my listeners. I want to thank you so much for joining me and our special guest, Tracey Lundell, on the Average Joe Finances podcast today. Go leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you liked about today's specific episode with Tracy. Aloha from Hawaii, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.